A few weeks ago, we were invited by Fi Sonola, a South London-based artist, to her exhibition at Flat 70 in Elephant and Castle. Fi's work demonstrates a unique personality that uses texture and colour as a form of communication, a language that the artist wants us to decipher. Following on from a hiatus that extended a number of years, Fi returned to her work with a new purpose, one that focuses on the relationship between conflict, communication and identity.
So a lot of my work is a kind of introspective look on my life, and I focus on the themes of conflict, communication and identity. But I'm really looking at what happens when these things kind of intersect. I've not always been the best at communicating, I'm even nervous right now. But whereas I'm not necessarily good at public speaking and stuff, I'm really good at writing and playing with words. I'd play with the material, I've used acrylic since I've just started making art, acrylic paint and hot glue, and it's really about, okay, I know I'm able to do this with acrylic, but what happens if I mix with this? What happens if I do that? It's really trying to find as many possible outcomes as possible. All the material and the ways of working are just an amalgamation of Team Me and Me Now, because I hit a bit of a wall emotionally at the end of my teens, and I stopped working completely all the way up until last year. So this is it's new but feels very, very familiar.
Wow, yeah. Obviously you were saying about conflict and identity. What's kind of the importance of those in particular with regards to your work?
I have not had the best upbringing, and I entered adulthood I had the book smarts, but I didn't have the social skills and all these other things, and it always felt like I was at a state of kind of conflict of everything else. So I will tell you what it says. It actually says draw first blood, but because the text kind of disappears off the canvas, I like to think of it as the real canvas is bigger than the thing that you're actually seeing in something like this.
Yeah. And
that's how I like to kind of approach conflict and identity. I'm a very visual person.
Yeah.
And it's the best way for me to kind of not just express myself, my being, but these are my symbols, and you interpret them how you see fit, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously you were saying how this exhibition has got some quite interesting context for you personally, having your kind of hiatus you had. What kind of changed stylistically for you in that kind of time off, from when you were working before to last year? What stylistically changed or creatively changed for you?
Visually, well, I actually started working on a canvas.
Yeah.
I wasn't working on a canvas before. I did this for my fine art exam. I'd made a tapestry of just glue, a really big one. I was very more into space, and acrylic and glue would come in with its accents when it was needed, but I really liked the idea of creating space. I'm really interested in the lived experiences of people within space, because we know how space affects us. A cramped room makes you feel uncomfortable. If you were to end up in a huge room with someone's told me about this, it's painted white to the point that you can't see the corners and the edges of the wall, that would do something to you. And I used to try and play with that really early. I really kind of want to move off the canvas and kind of still explore the things that I want to explore, just way more depth. And the silver's light fast, but she's abrasive. Mm-hmm. So if you manhandle her enough, the silver starts to come off. And I guess it's the first kind of step into playing with materials that I know has that kind of sensitivity, and like generally approaching that, which is quite funny because I'm like a super sensitive person as well, so it almost kind of reflects like what I'm actually doing with myself. I feel like quite young I learnt not to be too sentimental about stuff. I'm just okay with it. Something good will come out of it, just me. Something always does.
So this is goodbye. This is good.